This is linear equations with fractions. Please make sure to read my write-up before you watch this video. My first problem will be 1/2 y minus 5 equals 1/8 y. As I mentioned in my write-up, one option is for you to solve this using the 5 steps from section 1.2 while performing those steps on fractions, and I will show you how to do that first. If you don't like that option, there is an option number 2 which will require you to first remove all fractions, make an equation so that it does not have any fractions, and then solve it using the same 5 steps one by one, whichever ones are applicable. So option 1. Going through our steps, first step was distribute. We don't have parentheses, so we will skip that. Second step was combining like terms that are on the same side of the equal sign. If you look at these two, they're not like terms, they're on the same side. And then, of course, the right side only has one term, 1/8y. So this step is not applicable. The next step was to move all letters to the same side of the equal sign. I will personally take 1/2 y that is currently positive and it's on the left and move it to the right by making it negative. Remember, when you're moving, you change the sign. And I encourage you to review those 5 steps. So now you have -5 on the left because 1/2 y is gone to the right, then my equal sign, make sure you keep carrying that. And on the right side, you have 1/8y minus 1/2 y. These are like terms and you have to put them together. You can only combine fractions, add or subtract fractions, if their denominators are the same. So currently, your fractions do not have the same denominators, and you need to first make them the same in order for you to combine 1/8 and 1/2. The common denominator will be 8. So what I will do is I will try to create an 8 out of this 2. 2 can become an 8 if it gets multiplied by 4. So I'm going to multiply the top of the fraction by 4 and the bottom of the fraction by 4. So instead of 1/2, it's going to become 4/8. So let me write the equation over. -5 equals 1/8y minus 4/8y. So now you can combine these two fractions, the 1/8 and the -4/8. And whatever the result is, it will have a y next to it. So remember, when you're adding or subtracting fractions, you keep that denominator as is. So it will be 8. You will have that y next to it. And for the tops, you have a +1 and a -4. Different signs. We're going to subtract and keep the sign of the 4 because it's larger, so negative. 4 minus 1 is 3, and that's going to be a -3, and then bring down your -5 right here. Moving on, your goal, remember, is to get y by itself. So you need to remove the -3/8. You ask yourself how it's attached to y, and it's through multiplication. So you will be dividing by -3/8. Once you do it here, it will cancel, so that's simple. On the left side, you will be dividing your -5 by -3/8. -5 divided by -3/8. Here you need to remember what we do to divide fraction by fraction. Now, -5 isn't a fraction, but we can easily make it into 1 by putting it over 1. So you have -5/1 divided by -3/8. As a reminder, to divide a fraction by a fraction, you will be performing what I call keep, change, flip. This means you will be keeping the first fraction, changing division into multiplication, and flipping the second fraction. So instead of -3/8, you have -8/3, and you keep dragging your equal sign, and then the y on the right side. Now, to multiply two fractions, you simply multiply straight across 5 by 8, which is a 40, and 1 by 3, which is a 3. 40 over 3 will be positive because you were multiplying two negative numbers together. 40 over 3 equals your y, and that completes this problem. Now you do need to check if your fraction can be simplified. The 3 at the bottom is only divisible by 3, and 3 does not go into 40, so leave it alone. Don't make it into a mixed number, but do make sure that you cannot simplify it. Now, going forward, I will show how to solve the same equation as we did in number 1, but using our second option, which will require you to first remove all of the denominators. This was your original problem. 1 over 2y minus 5 equals 1 over 8y. And like I said before, I started going through the 5 steps that we've been going through since section 1.2. I will first remove the denominators. Removing the denominators is done by multiplying every term of this equation by the denominator that is the lowest common denominator for 2 and 8. It is 8 because 8 is the smallest number that can be divided by 8 and by 2. What I will do is multiply every single term, including the 5, which is not a fraction, by this lowest common denominator. I may reference it as LCD in the future. This is what I mean when I do so. So here's what this gives me. 1 over 2 gets multiplied by 8 and becomes 8 over 2 with the y. 5 gets multiplied by 8 and becomes 40. Then my equal sign. The last fraction, 1 over 8 times this 8 becomes 8 over 8 with the y. Now I will simplify each fraction. 8 over 2 is nothing but a 4 with the y. Then you have your 40 with the negative sign. And then 8 over 8 is 1 with the y. You see, we were able to remove all of the fractions, and now we're going to go through the steps of solving this equation. So you're going to take 4y, move it here, make it negative 4y, which leaves you with negative 40 equals, and positive 1 and negative 4 is a negative 3 with the y. Now we divide both sides by negative 3, which cancels the negative 3's next to the y and leaves you with positive 40 over 3 equals y. Now remember, 40 divided by 3 is just a fraction. We cannot simplify it. And it does become positive since the 40 and the 3 were both negatives. And if you compare our answers, option 1 and option 2, they're exactly the same. So from now on, I will only be using option 2, but again, you're welcome to not use it and operate on fractions like I showed in option 1. So here is the next example, problem number 2. Since I'm going to remove fractions, I need to find the common denominator for 5 and 2. Lowest common denominator for 5 and 2 is 10, because 10 is the smallest number that can be divided by 5 and by 2. And I will multiply every single term, including those that are not fractions, by that 10. So the first fraction is now 10 over 5 with an x. The second fraction is now 10 over 2, and that one doesn't have an x. And then after the equal sign, where I used to have my negative 4, I now have negative 4 times 10, which is negative 40. Let's simplify every fraction. 10 divided by 5 is a 2. 10 divided by 2 is a 5. And after my equal sign, you still have your negative 40. All I have to do now is move the 5 and then divide by 2. So moving the 5 is going to be done through subtraction, because that's attached to the x through addition. You get 2x equals a negative 40 is negative, and the 5 is also negative. Same signs, I'm going to add and keep the sign, so that's negative 45. And then you divide both sides by 2, which cancels it next to the x, and turns your negative 45 into negative 45 over 2. So x is negative 45 over 2. Again, this fraction cannot be simplified, but please make sure you check if you can. Here's your number 3. W minus 6 over 3 minus 8 equals W plus 4 over 4. Please don't cancel anything just yet. Remember our first step when it comes to equations with fractions is to find the common denominator for the 3 and for the 4. So you need to look for the number that can be divided by 3 and also by 4, and that's your LCD, it's 12. We will use that 12 to multiply every term by that 12. Keep in mind that this is one term. You do not need to multiply a W and the 6 by 12 individually. This is one big fraction, one big term. You will be multiplying the whole thing by 12. Same with this big fraction. And then you have the 8, which is also a term. So we'll multiply by 12. This gets multiplied by 12, and this gets multiplied by 12. Before I start multiplying now, this is what I'm going to do. This 12 gets divided by this 3 before the 12 starts multiplying the tops. So 12 divided by 3 is a 4. And that 4 will multiply the W minus 6 that was on the top. Now the 8 times the 12, let's see, 8 times 10 is 80, 8 times 2 is 16, so that's 96 minus 96 equals, so 96 is just 8 times the 12. Finally, I'm going to divide this 12 by this 4 to get a 3. Now let's go to our steps. The first step was distribute. We have 2 sets of parentheses here. So I will be distributing the 4 and the 3 as my first step. So I get 4W minus 24, bring down minus 96, bring down the equal sign, and then 3W plus 12. Next step is collect like terms that are on the same side. I have negative 24 and negative 96, 2 negatives. You're gonna add and keep the sign. 4W minus 120 equals 3W plus 12. Now I need both of my W's on the same side, so I'll take 3W and move it to this side from right to left, which will change the sign of 3W to a negative. And when I combine these two numbers with the W, I'm going to get 1W, or simply W. Bring down my minus 120, bring down the equal sign, and my 12. Last final step is to take the negative 120 and add it on the right. So W equals 134. And last final question when it comes to equations with fractions. So your number 4, you will have F equals 9 over 5C plus 32. This is actually a formula that converts degrees Celsius into degrees Fahrenheit. So one of the letters, either Fahrenheit or Celsius, will be given to you in this problem. I'm going to give you the Fahrenheit, which is 22. And the question will ask you to find the Celsius conversion of 22 Fahrenheit. So since F is given, the 22, number 22 will be replacing the letter F inside of your problem. So you're going to have 22 for the F, and then the rest of it will just stay exactly the same. All we have to do now is solve for C. Okay, to solve for C, remember I will have to remove fractions, and to remove fractions I have to find the LCD. It's very simple here because the only denominator here is the 5, so that is your LCD. We're going to multiply every single term, including those that are not fractions, by the 5. So 22 is now going to be 110. 9 times 5 here will make me a 45 over 5 was the C. And 32 times 5 is 160. Of course, the whole point of us multiplying by 5 is so that the fractions can be gone. 45 divided by 5 here is a 9. Now I'm going to remove addition away from the C through subtraction. 110 minus 160 is negative 50 equals 9C. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 9. And I'll continue here. Negative 50 divided by 9 cannot be simplified, but sometimes questions that actually have context, like in this case, they will ask you for a decimal. So pay close attention to that. 50 divided by 9 is 5.56 approximately. It's going to be negative, and that's equal to your C because the 9's cancel here. If the question does not ask you for a decimal, leave it as negative 50 over 9, and that completes equations with fractions.